Hello everyone, back again with movie and tune recap. Today, I'm going to explain an American supernatural horror film from 2025, titled The Mannequin. Spoilers ahead, so watch out and take care. The movie opens in the 1930s at a mannequin factory in downtown Los Angeles, where a model named Ruth arrives for a photo shoot at Jack Bernard's studio. After the first round of photos, Jack tells Ruth about other models who found success after shooting in his studio. He then takes a measuring tape and begins measuring Ruth without her consent, making her uncomfortable. While photographing pin-up girls, Jack suggests they take a few shots without her dress, which causes Ruth to lash out. She excuses herself to change for the next shoot, but while in the dressing room, she notices Jack watching her and demands privacy, and Jack reluctantly walks away. After finishing dressing, Ruth calls out to Jack but receives no response. She searches the building for him but cannot find him. Retrieving her belongings and preparing to leave, Ruth is suddenly attacked and killed by Jack. A trail of blood is then shown on the floor, followed by a shot of Jack placing Ruth's decapitated head on a mannequin and taking photographs. In the present day, Sophia, a fashion designer, and her sister Liana decide to purchase Jack Bernard's former studio, once part of the old mannequin factory. Renting the building for her fashion business, Sophia envisions the layout of work tables, fabrics, and clothing designs. During a tour of the property with the building manager, Berardo, the sisters come across various items left behind by the previous tenant. The building manager gives Sophia the keys and the building documents before leaving. When Liana returns to her apartment, she finds it in a mess, while her boyfriend Peter is online telling a ghost story. She confronts him about the untidy state of the apartment, and Peter promises to clean up once he finishes his story. That night, Liana and Peter attend their friend Nadine's engagement party. Nadine is engaged to Mike, and several other guests are present. During the celebration, everyone seems to be enjoying themselves, with Peter once again entertaining others by telling ghost stories. However, Liana is visibly annoyed by his behavior as she sits with her sister Sophia and their friend Hazel. Nadine later joins them to discuss the dress code for her wedding, and Sophia tells her about the factory she recently rented. Later that night, back at home, Peter tells Liana how much he enjoyed the party, but she remains silent, clearly troubled. When Peter notices her mood, Liana opens up and ends their relationship. The next day, Nadine and Hazel help the sisters move their belongings into the factory, and during the move, Liana tells them about her breakup with Peter, which disappoints both women. Inside the factory, Sophia shows Nadine and Hazel around, and they discover a mannequin in the living room. Sophia explains that it was already there when she rented the building and that she has named it Alice. After staring at the mannequin for a while, they leave the room, unaware that its eyes slowly turn gray and blood begins to trickle from its nose. After helping Sophia and Liana unpack, Hazel and Nadine leave the building to go elsewhere. A conversation between the sisters soon turns into an argument, and in frustration, Liana storms out. Back at home, she receives a call from her boss, who informs her that they have lost a client due to her recent absence from work. As a result, he fires her and warns that he will make sure she never gets employed by another company because of her behavior. Meanwhile at the studio, Sophia has finished arranging the space, and while taking out the trash, she hears footsteps coming from the stairs, but they suddenly stop. She dismisses it and continues her work, but moments later, she sees a woman emerging from the staircase. When she turns around, something horrifying happens. The next morning, Liana wakes up to a voicemail from Hazel, who says she's been trying to reach Sophia without success and asks Liana to check on her. When Liana arrives at the studio, she finds Sophia's phone on the floor and follows a trail of blood, leading her to the shocking sight of her sister's lifeless body. The police rule Sophia's death as a suicide, and the case is closed without further investigation. 1 year later, Nadine, who is now married to Mark, is seen cooking with him when she receives a text message from one of her friends. Meanwhile, Liana returns to Los Angeles after traveling to Italy to grieve Sophia's death, and she reopens the studio to continue what Sophia started. Liana asks the building manager about the mannequin, and he explains that he thought it belonged to Sophia. He offers to dispose of it, but Liana tells him not to. As the sun sets, the mannequin's eyes begin to turn gray. After decorating the studio with her sewing equipment, Liana listens to a voicemail from her ex-boyfriend, Peter, who apologizes for not staying in touch after her sister's death and says he wants to see her now that she's back in town. That night, Liana has a nightmare about the day she discovered Sophia's lifeless body. She wakes up to the sound of a sewing machine, and to her horror, sees the ghost of Sophia working on it before vanishing. The next morning, while getting ready for a reunion with her friends, Liana notices bruises on her neck and covers them with makeup. Later, Nadine and Hazel arrive at the studio, and Liana offers them drinks as they begin their reunion. During the catch-up, everyone enjoys the conversation, especially Liana's stories about her time in Italy. However, Hazel becomes angry with Liana for acting as if nothing had happened at the studio, reminding her that they are there to talk about Sophia. Liana apologizes for ignoring them, explaining that she went to Italy to grieve in her own way and promises to make it up to them. That night, Nadine decides to go home, while Hazel offers to stay and keep Liana company, even though Liana didn't ask her to. When Hazel returns to the studio, she begins hearing strange noises coming from the stairs, but before she can investigate, Liana calls out to her. Later, as they go through some fashion designs, Hazel compliments them, saying they are amazing. Liana tells her that the designs were created by Sophia and admits that she even copied some of Sophia's design patterns to gain admission into the Fashion Institute. While sorting through old materials, Liana finds one of Sophia's old dresses. She and Hazel place it on the mannequin, but as they do, they hear footsteps coming from the living room. When they go to check, they find nothing, and Liana tells Hazel she heard the same sound the previous night. Suddenly, the mannequin's head falls off, startling them both, and when Liana puts the head back on, it falls off again. Later that night, while they sleep in separate rooms, Hazel begins to feel something dripping onto her head. When she wakes up, she's horrified to see a woman's ghost standing nearby. As she walks around in fear, Hazel encounters the ghost of Jack, and strange things begin to happen. Meanwhile in the studio, Liana wakes up to strange noises, and to her horror, she finds Hazel in a trance-like state, harming herself with a sharp object as if controlled by an unseen force. Hazel is rushed to the hospital, and Nadine visits after learning what happened. When she questions Liana about the incident, Liana says she doesn't remember anything, and Nadine concludes that Hazel tried to take her own life. After Hazel's injuries are treated, the three decide to stay at Nadine's house for the night. When Nadine asks Hazel what happened, Hazel says she isn't sure and explains that everything felt like a dream. Nadine insists that Hazel might be suicidal and trying to escape an unresolved trauma. This leads to an argument, as Liana refuses to believe that Hazel is unstable or that Sophia took her own life. Their argument is interrupted when Liana receives a call from the building manager, who says he checked the studio's security cameras but found nothing unusual before Hazel's incident the previous night. With tensions easing, Hazel and Liana decide to stay the night at Nadine's house, and while talking, Liana tells Hazel about her encounter with Sophia's ghost. Meanwhile in the bathroom, Nadine fails to notice a decaying hand emerging from the bathtub. Later that night, as everyone sleeps, something moves under Nadine's bedsheets, and a shadowy figure can be seen working in the living room. Hazel wakes up after hearing a noise coming from the kitchen and is horrified to see Nadine cutting herself with a knife. Possessed or controlled by something, Nadine turns on Hazel and chases her with the knife, and Hazel runs outside in fear. Unable to reach her, Nadine drops the knife and goes to the kitchen sink, where she shoves her hand into the sink grinder, severely injuring her fingers just as Hazel rushes back in to help her. The next day, Liana and Hazel take Nadine to the hospital to have her fingers stitched, and her injured hand is bandaged. Confused about what is happening to them, Liana calls Peter for help, knowing that he is interested in paranormal activity and might be able to figure out what's going on. Peter gathers the three friends and shares his research about the building. He explains that it was constructed in 1923 and originally served as a mannequin factory. However, things took a darker turn in the 1950s. The building was owned by the Bernard family for nearly a century and later operated as a photography studio run by Jack Bernard. In 1955, a catalog model named Ruth went missing, and her body was later found in a dumpster, decapitated. In 1964, another model, Mindy, disappeared, and her body was discovered with her arms severed. In 1972, a third model, Carol, was found dead with her legs removed, and Jack Bernard became a prime suspect, but he was never charged. The missing body parts were never recovered, and rumors spread that Jack kept them as trophies to preserve his victim's beauty, or for some other disturbing reason. In 1999, Jack's crimes finally caught up to him when DNA evidence linked him to the murders, and shortly after, he took his own life by shooting himself. Peter explains that what happened to Sophia, and what is now happening to them, may be connected to Jack's spirit. He tells them he wants to help and suggests they return to the old factory where it all began, warning that they have been marked and are not safe anywhere else. Peter and the women arrive at the factory, where he places protective items around them before heading off to inspect the perimeter. Using a detection device, he locates what he is searching for. Meanwhile, Nadine checks the car monitor and sees that they are surrounded by ghostly entities, but when she looks outside, no one is there. Moments later, Peter returns and instructs them to get out of the car, and together they enter the building. To their shock, they find blood on the floor, the same blood from when Hazel injured herself, and discover that the mannequin has been shattered. Later, Peter sets up his camera downstairs while Liana cleans the blood and begins clearing the space. Moments later, flashes can be seen coming from downstairs, and Peter tells Liana to join the others in the living room. Peter then takes his detection device to investigate, repeatedly telling the entity that it is not welcome, and suddenly, a loud scream forces him to remove his headset. He soon encounters the ghost of the dead women and quickly runs to the living room to grab holy water, which he sprinkles around the room, warning the others not to leave until he says so. He then grabs his bag containing exorcism items and heads back to the studio. There, he pours salt on the ground to form a circle and reassembles the mannequin. He instructs the friends to step inside the circle and warns them not to cross the line until he tells them to. Intending to provoke the spirits through prayer, Peter slashes his palm and rubs the blood on the mannequin's face. He begins the exorcism, guiding the women to repeat his words, and as the camera flashes continuously, black liquid starts to ooze from the mannequin's body. When the ritual ends, Peter suggests that they destroy the mannequin. He grabs an axe and begins chopping the mannequin into pieces, and to his horror, he finds missing body parts that appear to belong to Jack's victims. Nadine panics and tries to leave, but Peter attempts to stop her, and suddenly, Liana becomes possessed by Jack's demonic spirit. She grabs a knife and tries to stab Peter, but he deflects the attack as Nadine and Hazel hide in fear. Liana then picks up the axe and strikes Peter repeatedly until he loses one of his arms. As this happens, a sewing machine suddenly starts operating on its own. Before Liana can finish Peter off, Hazel grabs a pin from one of Sophia's belongings and pierces Liana's neck, causing her to regain consciousness. Liana breaks down, screaming in horror at the sight of what she has done, and the friends quickly flee the building. Later, the spirits of the murdered women appear around the mannequin, as if mourning the loss of their missing body parts. Meanwhile, in a hidden part of the studio, the building manager, who has been secretly watching everything, is revealed to be Jack's grandson, and he intends to continue his grandfather's dark legacy. With everything seemingly back to normal, Liana, Hazel, Nadine, and Peter visit Sophia's grave to say their final goodbye. As they turn to leave, a hand touches Liana's shoulder. Meanwhile, the building manager is shown renting the factory to a new woman who plans to use it as a photography studio. In the final shot, the previously destroyed mannequin is shown glued back together, and its eyes begin to turn gray, signaling that the terror may not be over. Okay guys, that's all the recap about the mannequin. Thanks for watching, see you again in the next video.